Today, I'm going to do a complete walkthrough of an N8N lead qualification and email response system. This is a multi-AI agent automation in which it is going to qualify leads who submit information on our website, and then it is going to respond to those emails immediately as well. This is an automation and system that we use internally within our agency. And so it's also connected directly to HubSpot, our CRM. And so it can track if somebody has booked an appointment with us as well based on the email that we've sent them. If we found that they haven't booked a call with us, then we can send them a follow-up email through this flow as well. The ultimate goal here is to ensure that anybody that submits their information on our website, this information goes to our email inbox. It's going to get automatically responded to through the N8N agent. And to ensure that we are keeping in touch with them as much as possible is going to follow up with them until we can get that appointment booked. This is something that you'd be able to directly send to somebody that submits information on a lead form. And we can look at the email right here. So this email, once again, it's very tailored to our agency as this is exactly what we use internally ourselves. And it just says, thank you for reaching out and your interest in Inflate AI. To answer your question, we specialize in building a wide range of AI systems tailored to meet business needs, including advanced AI voice agents, blah, blah, blah. The question that I'd sent through was just asking whether or not we provided AI voice agent services. And then this was the response directly to that question. And then after this, we've got a little bit of proof building just to tell them that, yes, we do work with companies just like yours. And if you want us to discuss this a little bit further, then we can go ahead and book a call. And at the bottom here, we've also got the Calendly link to do that. So this is going to be the perfect system for really any business that is receiving some inbound leads that are coming through. You've got a set of criteria that you want to qualify them against, and you want to ensure that you are getting to those leads as quickly as possible. So getting started, there's really three core parts to this system. So number one, we've got the qualifier agent. So the way that this works is that we're going to be sending information from the website. So this right here is our own lead form submission. Pretty much you answer these questions right here and you can hit the submit button and that will get sent off to this N8N workflow. This will run into our qualification agent, which will determine based on the provided details. If I have a look at our form, we have some information that allows us to qualify them based on annual revenue, company size, project budget. We're able to pretty well determine if they are somebody that's going to be qualified for our services. And we're feeding all of that information into the qualification agent. If they are qualified, then we're going to be happy to move forward with them and send them our booking link. Otherwise, we've actually got a step to send them a rejection email, letting them know that they might not be the best fit. So the second part of the system then is the response system, which we have right here. Obviously, I'm going to dive into each step to showcase the purpose, but otherwise they are the two main systems. And then lastly, we do have the knowledge base upload flow right here as well. And this is specifically used to upload website information and documents directly into our knowledge bases. And this just helps ensure that the responses and the emails that we're sending out have complete context about our business, our website, our services, so that it can genuinely answer any questions that come through. All right, so you should have a pretty high level understanding now as to the system and what it's used for. I'm now gonna do more of a step-by-step walkthrough, going through each of the individual nodes so you can get a complete understanding as to why it's built the way it is. If you don't wanna follow along with this and have to build it out manually yourself, I will have this template for a completely free download within my free school community, which I'll have linked in the description. We've got over 20,000 members now. We've got 50 plus other AI agent templates and courses. And once again, it's completely free, so there's no reason not to join. I'll have it linked down below. All right, so getting started, what we have is the qualifier agent. And at the beginning, we have a form submission webhook. So the way that this works is that we are sending literally the information directly from Framer. So that is where my website is built. Obviously, if you're using Wix or Webflow or using HubSpot forms or whatever, this is just going to be a regular webhook to send your information to. So essentially all this is doing is if I click into this, you're going to see a webhook right here. This is automatically generated when we create the webhook trigger step here on N8N. And all I've done is I've copied this URL that it's given me. I've gone over to Framer and I've said, whenever somebody submits a form, send it off to this URL right here. And so for complete clarity, you can see here on Framer, I have this web form submission right here. If I click on the form submission right here and I go to the bottom, you're going to see the webhook section. So on Framer, it makes it quite easy. We can just send off the information from the form to a webhook, and I've gone ahead and just pasted that API right here. Once that's set up, all of the form submissions are now going to be connected directly into the workflow. And so it's just going to continue from then. Right after this, we're setting some variables to be used within the rest of the flow. If I click into this, what we're going to see is a Calendly link as well as minimum revenue. So all this is doing is just setting two variables. One is called Calendly link, and that is a direct link to the Calendly link to book with us. And the second one is minimum revenue. So that's the minimum amount of revenue that would qualify for a business that we would want to work with. And the reason that I've gone ahead and set these up as variables is because we might want to change this in the future. These are two values that we do typically change. And so the fact that we can just access it once right here, rather than having to update it multiple times throughout the system. So it's not absolutely necessary, but I would definitely recommend it if you are going to be referencing a field multiple times. Next up, we're moving into the qualification agent. So this is an AI agent step in which is going to be given a bunch of information about the lead who has just submitted their form. And we've got a qualification criteria prompt in which is going to assess that lead and determine if they are going to be fit for our services or not fit for our services. Overall, it is quite simple. And for us as an agency, we have quite a strict qualification criteria. And so it's quite easy to qualify or disqualify certain leads. And so at the top here, you'll see prompt, and this is the user message. This just contains all of the information coming directly from that frame of form submission. All of these values have simply been populated from the Webhook submission. And so you do need to run the system first and actually send off a sample request into n8n so you can get the data to populate. But once you've done that, you'll see on the left-hand side all of the information relevant to the form that you just submitted. And what you can do is just drag and drop that value into the prompt, and you can reference it to qualify them against. So pretty simple at the top here, just the lead details. I've got a name, an email, annual revenue, project budget, and questions. And then all the way at the bottom, we have a system message. So this is what we use to actually qualify the lead and have a look at those details and determine if they're qualified for our services. I can just expand upon this right here and we can have a look through this prompt. Once again, it's very simple. If you wanted to dive deeper into this, you absolutely could. We have quite a strict qualification criteria, which I'll outline. So it says you are a lead qualification specialist for Inflate AI. Your task is to evaluate whether this lead meets our qualification criteria. Number one, annual revenue must be at least. And then we've got the variable from before. So that is the value that we set at the start of the conversation, which was 500,000. Number two, assess business legitimacy. So assess if this appears to be an established business based on their company name that they provided, the professional email domain. It's not just a generic free email, Yahoo or Gmail, coherent business questions and needs, as well as having revenue figures that seem realistic for their industry. So it's kind of doing a very general look. Is this an established business? And then analyze the lead's details and return your qualification decision. If qualified, set qualified to true and provide a brief reason. If not qualified, set qualified to false and explain why. So these last two parts of the prompt here is setting up for some variables and values that we're going to be using later in the flow. And if I just jump out of our qualification agent right here, you'll see that we are directly connected into an output parser. So instead of simply outputting a paragraph of information or a chunk of information from our AI agent step right here, what we can use on n8n, which is quite smart, is an output parser system. And this is essentially defining and determining exactly what kind of values we want to have coming out of our agent. And so for this particular agent, we only want two values, and that is going to be whether or not the lead is qualified and maybe some information to back up the reasoning. And so the first object that you can see here, this is just a JSON defined structure. If you aren't familiar with JSON, I'd recommend just going through ChatGPT. It's quite good at creating this JSON. You can just take one of the examples or samples from n8n directly. You can have a look at some examples down here, and you can just tell it to create some values for you. But overall, for this particular agent, we've got a Boolean value as well as a string value. And so a Boolean value just means either true or false, and that is being used for whether or not the lead meets the qualification criteria, as we prompted just earlier, as well as either saying true or false. That is what will be assigned right here. And then we've got a string, and this is going to be the reasoning for that qualification. So you can see here, it's under reason, and we've got string. So the variable is called reason. The variable type is a string, so that is just a bunch of text. And then we've got a description here. You can think of it as like a prompt. It's pretty much just telling the AI what this value should be. And we're telling it that it should be a brief explanation of the qualification decision. So overall, out of this, we're going to be getting two values, a Boolean and a string, and we're going to be referencing this later in the workflow. So next up, we've got route based on the qualification. So this is what we'll be utilizing, that Boolean value. Clicking into this is simply just a switch node. So clicking into this if step right here, essentially what's happening is it is determining if the qualified step is equal to true, it is going to go down this true path. If it is not true and it's false, then it's going to go down the false pathway. So clicking into the if step, all that we're doing is we're taking the variable that is coming directly from our qualification agent. That variable is going to be called qualified, and we're essentially determining whether or not the Boolean is equal to true or it is equal to false. And so n8n makes this super easy. What you'll see in the Boolean step right here is that we can set it to is true. So if the qualified step is equal to, or the Boolean step is equal to true, it will continue down that pathway. Otherwise, by default, anything outside of that is going to be false. So let's say it is false and we failed the qualification step. We're going to be running directly into this Gmail module right here. And this Gmail step is simply sending a static email off to the individual that inquired through our website, letting them know that they are probably not qualified for our services, but feel free to reach back out if they have any interest in the future. And so this obviously can really be anything that you'd like. This is a very basic email template for this kind of email. And you can see an example right here. So we've got, hi, Brendan. Thank you for reaching out to Inflate Agency. We appreciate your interest in our AI implementation and automation services. At this time, we focus on working with established businesses, blah, blah, blah. We might not be the perfect fit for your current needs, but we encourage you to explore. But feel free to reach out again in the future as your business grows. Obviously, you can use AI to write these emails as well, not having a static message. Just depends on the use case. Otherwise, if they are qualified and our system lets them through, we're going to be jumping into the response system now. So this is going to be a secondary AI agent now, in which is going to be dedicated for writing up the email to hopefully move forward with the individual. So jumping into the email response agent right here, what we have is our user message, and we've just populated once again all of that information from that form submission webhook. We're giving it all the context that we can possibly give it. And then we have our system message, which is obviously going to be most critical for being able to get it to write us our email. So we've told it that you are an AI email assistant for Inflate AI, a company specializing in AI implementation and automation. And we've told it in a task, step by step, that your task is to review the form submission details provided, use the website knowledge tool to learn about Inflate AI services and capabilities, use the internal documents knowledge base to access internal company information and policies, answer any questions the prospect has submitted using the knowledge from both sources, compose a professional, personalized email response that thanks them for their interest, addresses their specific questions with relevant information, highlights how Inflate AI can help their business, includes the Calendly booking link for scheduling a discovery call, and then maintains a professional yet friendly tone. So this is pretty much everything that it's using in order to understand what to actually include in that email. And we've just highlighted step by step the order in which it should be thinking about it. And lastly, of course, we want to be sending that email off using our Gmail send tool. And so now our agent has complete context as to top to bottom, everything that needs to happen when it's reached. And at the bottom of our prompt, we've got a little bit of prompt conditioning. I've provided it with the actual Calendly link. So once again, this is what we set earlier within the workflow, if you can remember, as a static variable so that we can reference this and change the link multiple times in our workflow. And that is simply what we're referencing right here. And at the bottom, we've said you must always send the email with HTML formatting. The reason for this is so that we can get the nice formatting. If I jump back to the email, you'll see that we've got these spaces between these questions. The information isn't all just jumbled up into one big bunch of text, and doing it like this makes sure that each of these sentences and paragraph structures are all separate. All the way at the bottom, to make it a little bit more personalized, I've said the email must be signed off with cheers, Brendan, which is what I typically would sign off an email with. And we can see that it's populated that at the bottom as well. So that is it when it comes to responding to the emails. It's pretty simple. It's not that complicated. Obviously, you can add more to this if you do want to add more to it. The way in which our process works is quite simple. It is quite straightforward. We do want to just send them a booking link directly as quickly as possible. But of course, if you wanted to answer their question and dive a little bit deeper, you would be able to build this and modify this to be a multi-email system where it actually talks and responds back with the lead before sending that. So jumping out of the email response agent right here, what we have is the Gmail sender tools. This is probably the most important part of this email agent. Obviously, we need to be able to send emails, of course. And this is directly plugged into Gmail. This is connected directly to my Gmail inbox. Very simple to connect this and get it set up. There's only a few fields that I have configured here on the Gmail step. Obviously, I've configured it to send off an email. We can see that the resource is set to message and the operation is send. At the moment, I have set it to send an email to myself. You would want to replace this with the actual email that has come from the lead form submission. But for testing and demo purposes, I've just put my email here. This is a tool that is connected into an AI agent module rather than being separate from the agent. It means that we can actually use AI and the AI agent itself to determine what the subject line for the email should be, as well as the actual message content as well. See this AI generation button right here with these stars. This is essentially what will allow the AI itself to populate these fields. So I can click the X button right here and I can just add it again. However, over this button, it says, let the model define this parameter. And if I click this, it just means the AI is going to do it for us. Pretty easy, pretty simple to do that. And now our subject line and email is going to be written all for us. A quick note below the email template message right here, I've added a description that says you must format this email with natural HTML format. This is just a bit of prompt conditioning. I want to make sure that every time this email goes out, it is using its HTML format. In some cases from my testing, it has forgotten about it. And so that's why I've added it here and it's been good ever since. So the next part of our email agent here is going to be its knowledge base. So obviously it's great to be able to send a link off and answer a very brief question, but we need to have some information to be able to support that. And so that is what our knowledge base tools are doing right here. So this is directly connected into our website. It's scraped our website. It's got all the information from there and it's able to reference this as a tool when necessary. And so if you can remember, we prompted it to use these tools as well. If I jump back into the email response agent, And if I have a look at the system message, we can see that we were talking about using the knowledge base tools right here in step 2 and 3 to be able to sort of reinforce the email that we're writing. So what we've done here, we've added in 2 simple vector stores. If I click on tool right here, we can scroll down a little bit. We'll see simple vector store, and this is what we're using. It's a native n8n module, and we're just storing our information in these simple vector stores. So to set up the vector store for, let's say, the website knowledge tool, for example, if I click into this, what we can do is add a description. In this case, I've said search the Inflate Agency website content to answer questions about services, capabilities, case studies, and company information. And so now our agent has full-on context as to when it should be using this tool. And then you'll see at the bottom here with a memory key. So the memory key is key to exactly what information this vector store has access to. And so this is where the third part of our agent really comes in here, which is the knowledge base upload. So this isn't actually directly connected to our agent. It's not relevant to the workflow initially for our agent. This is just something that you're going to be using as a one-time to upload information into our knowledge base. So what's happening here is that we are scraping information from our website and we're using an embeddings tool to send information into our vector store. So I'll run this again so you can get complete context as to exactly what it does and how it works. So what I have is this module right here. This is just for essentially executing a workflow without having to do a webhook or anything. I just click execute or hit D on my keyboard to deactivate it or activate it. And I can connect this directly into this next module right here. What this API call is doing is just scraping our website. So it's literally a GET request to the URL of our website. Once this goes through, it literally just pulls back all of the HTML content from our website, and we can reference this and send it into our vector store. So if I hit execute step right here, you'll see it happen in real time. It's going to pull back a bunch of sort of jargon and HTML code, which has come directly from our website. We can see built with Framer is just some elements that are in the code of the website. And we can now use this to send it into our knowledge base. And this is just using the simple vector store module once again right here. It's automatically going to be able to detect the data from the previous module to be able to use and insert as a document into the vector store. We can see that we've got the vector store key created here as well. If I click into this, we can create multiple keys for multiple different vector stores. You can see that we've got the internal documents one right here, which is a separate key for referencing the separate database for internal documents. And most importantly, what we have is a document loader, which is connected into this vector store. And all that means is that our website content is going to be fed into the document loader to feed back into our knowledge base so that we can reference it later. So if I just click this button right here, what you're going to see happen is this website is going to get scraped. It's going to hit this vector store, and then the document loader is going to get hit as well with that information. It's going to process over many of the chunks to do with our website, and it's all going to get uploaded into the vector store. Hopefully that all makes sense. A lot of other videos out there on how to upload information and documents into a simple n8n vector database. But all we need to do is just do that for our website information, and then separately for our internal documents. In this case, you can see that we're using a separate memory key for our internal documents. In that case, we might just be uploading PDFs or Word documents. So finally, we've been able to fully automate this email. Now the process that we just went through is going to be able to allow you to generate emails just like this, and they're going to get sent out immediately after the leads come through. But of course, a big problem that we've ran into is that not everyone is going to be replying to the emails that we send out right away. And we do need to have some sort of a system to follow up them so that we can ensure that we might get their business. So a really cool thing about n8n is that we can actually set a wait step, and we can actually wait up to 3 days or literally as long as you'd like to run a follow-up sequence. And this is obviously going to be incredibly powerful for us to run this workflow, wait 3 days, and then continue the workflow. This is not stopping the workflow and then running it again. This is literally waiting. It's going to have all of the context from all of these previous modules and nodes still. It is literally the exact same execution. It's just waiting 3 days to continue. And so right after this, what I have set up is a couple of HubSpot modules. So once again, our agency, we use HubSpot. If you're not using HubSpot, you can just use whatever CRM to determine this. And so initially what's happening is that we're doing a search of their HubSpot contact. So if I have a look at this first module right here, what we're doing is we're doing a query search based on our entire HubSpot contact database. I'm sending through the email as a query, and it is going to pull back information about the lead. So I'll hit execute step, and you'll see what I mean. It is going to pull back information related to me. And you can see that information coming through right here. It's just pulled through my first name, last name, as well as an email address. But most importantly, what we've got is a HubSpot ID, and this is what we're using in the next step. So the next step is dedicated for just getting all of the information about that contact as possible and any activities and booking details. So if I execute this next step, what it's doing is it's doing a GET request on HubSpot to get all of the information from that lead's ID. And if I have a look at this, we can now look at a bunch of information that we're receiving here, which is just anything to do with myself as a lead within our HubSpot account. Because we've already set up our system to send leads into HubSpot for our frame. This works because our Framer website has a plugin directly for HubSpot. So whenever somebody submits their information on our form, it automatically gets sent and creates them as a contact in HubSpot. Obviously, if you don't have that, you would have to build that automation yourself. And then second to that, we've connected HubSpot to our Calendly booking account, so we know exactly when a particular contact has booked a call with Calendly. And so all that our system needs to do is just look at all of the information coming from HubSpot and all of the contact information, which you can see right here. And this next step is just an if step, and it is looking directly at this particular property, which is coming through and gets saved and stored on our HubSpot accounts. And this is very simply just a value that comes through whenever somebody books an appointment with us through Calendly, a particular question gets stored within our HubSpot contact. And all I'm saying is if that particular HubSpot contact for that Calendly value exists at all, it means that they booked a discovery call with us. And so that's how we're able to determine whether somebody that has reached out to us has been able to book an appointment. And so finally, obviously, if they have been able to book an appointment with us, the emails work, then we don't have to do anything extra. We don't have to bug them anymore. We're going to be jumping on a call with them. Otherwise, if it hasn't worked and we haven't found them to have booked an appointment with us, what we can do is go down the false path and then just send them a follow-up email. And very simply, the follow-up email just says, hi, I wanted to follow up on the information we sent a few days ago about our AI implementation services. We noticed that we haven't scheduled a call yet. If you'd like to book a time, here's the link, whatever. And then hopefully they book an appointment with us. Now, obviously you can take this even further. If you want to do a second or third follow-up email as well, we typically don't want to bug people too much if they're not that serious. We've got plenty of other leads to work with. Otherwise, you could tack on a second or a third follow-up on this system very easily. So there we have it. That's the complete setup here for the email responder. Once again, if you want to get access to this, I'll have it for a completely free download within the free school community, linked in the description. And if you are a business owner and you want to get an email automation system built out or anything else, feel free to reach out with me and my team using the link in the description.